Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening. This is Kimberly Sheridan from Losing It with Kimberly. I am feeling pretty good today. Got a decent night's sleep. I think I woke up a couple of times for a little while, but overall I feel rested. I don't even believe today is day 31 on the treadmill, and I'm not going to probably remember to announce each day what day it is, but I don't believe I forgot yesterday, at least, to say that it was day 30. So without really too much effort, honestly, for me, the most effort comes in remembering to do things. It's not the resistance of doing them, it's remembering to do them at all. So fortunately, the treadmill, as I've mentioned many times, works because I just get up, get my coffee, and come to the treadmill. And again, that still takes me 30 minutes, just, I don't know, getting dressed, going to the bathroom, getting the coffee. That's not even making the coffee, as I mentioned, it's just pouring it over ice. Diddle-daddling, who knows? Somehow it still takes me 30 minutes to get on the treadmill. But in any case, it's on my mind the first thing in the morning, and I haven't yet forgotten to do it, like I keep forgetting to do other changes, which, as I've mentioned, is necessitating that I get together my checklist and just start using that, which I also haven't done yet. I keep telling you I need to, and I do still need to, and I haven't done it. I'm really going to try to prioritize that today. Doesn't seem like a big deal. I already have a chart, so it's not a big deal. That's the answer. Anyway, so I should do that. But today is day 31. Yesterday was day 30. And day 30 of doing 60 minutes at 2.5 miles per hour. The first few days, I think I did do 1.7 because my goal was to work at my treadmill desk. And I wasn't sure what speed I could walk and still get any work done. And then I realized I could go to 2.5. Then, as I mentioned yesterday, somewhere along the way, I hadn't really even considered changing from 2.5, but yesterday I accidentally went above that. I mean, most days I accidentally hold the button too long and go above it. But yesterday, somehow it clicked in my mind, hey, maybe I could increase the speed. And so it actually worked out. I kept it the 3.0, even when I was doing work at my treadmill desk on my computer, and my typing wasn't any worse than it was at 2.5. I mean, not everything I do during this period of time on my computer is typing, but a lot of times I got to type something. I'm, typing a note about something. I'm reading an article and making notes, whatever I'm doing. And my typing wasn't great, so if I had something that was a lot of typing, I wouldn't do it at the treadmill desk because it takes too much time to go back and correct it. But the few things I had to jot down and make notes of, I was able to do the same at 3.0 as I was at 2.5. So that's a change that I'm going to stick with, and I'm doing it right now, doing it today. I know that you can tell probably that I breathe a little harder at 3.0 than I did at the 2.5. Now that I'm mentioning breathing, I'm like, I need a big breath. You can probably tell that I breathe a little harder talking to you. That's okay. You can hear me breathing at 2.5 also. But the fact that you can hear me breathing harder is good, right? Because it tells you I'm actually working harder. And I can tell you, I also sweat. Not heavily, but I sweat more. At the 2.5, the most I would get is just a feeling of warmth, but not like I couldn't touch my body and feel sweat, except maybe at the very top of my hairline. And I think that was on days that hormonally I was arriving to the treadmill already hot from the inside out. And so that's when I would sweat for that. But yesterday at the 3.0, I did get warmer. And that also shows that you're working harder. And I did sweat more. And then I thought, oh, well, no, this isn't going to work, right? Because the whole thing is I don't have a lot of time. And I'm trying to double time activities. And I don't take a shower every day. So even, if I sweat on the treadmill, now I have to take a shower, then that's going to add more time. And you say, well, shower doesn't take long, especially if you're not washing your hair every day, which I can't because I'm already losing so much hair that I feel stressed every time I get into the shower. So I'm certainly not going to wash, and it's dry. So I'm definitely not going to wash my hair every day. But even just adding a 15-minute shower, and then you have to get dressed. I mean, that's adding time. And that's the thing I keep telling you I don't have. So I decided that I'm going to have to do the smell test, right? After I got off the treadmill, I was like, okay, I'm going to just be in my house doing normal stuff for the next couple of hours and see if I need to take a shower if I just keep doing this 3.0. And luckily the answer was no. I didn't sweat enough. I mean, I never really felt wetness on my arms, but I just felt more sweaty. I don't know. Anyway, but the answer was no, I'm not going to have to take a shower. So I'm going to stick with this 3.0. That was a long way to tell you that the change to 3.0 worked. And I'm happy about it. So that's good. And yesterday just happened to be day 30 on the treadmill desk. And I should say, on the treadmill, I'm not trying to do work while I'm talking to you. But it happened to be day 30. And it happened to be the day I increased my speed. And they had nothing to do with each other. No conscious thought at all went into that. So you can make changes whenever you want to make changes. I really don't think that we need to be so stringent in scheduling our change. Well, and again, everything I'm getting ready to say is the exact opposite of how I have thought about diet and fitness and health in the past. I'm always like, okay, this is where you are. This is where your goal is. These are the things you need to make your goal, to get to your goal. Do step 1, do step 2, assign dates to them, blah, blah, blah. I think that all went out the window when I followed that method, and it worked for me for so many years of my life. And then once I got to a point where there were things like hormones, adrenal fatigue, autoimmune disorders of some sort that were making my body ache every day, like I had the flu, just debilitating levels of fatigue and body pain. Just everybody knows in menopause too. Even if you don't have trauma going on in life, there's all sorts of things happening in our various bodies during menopause and perimenopause. So, and schedule. A big part of what works for me is routine. There's no question about it. And so when that all flew out the window during these times when everything's on fire and I'm just jumping from one thing to the other, just to do terrible at everything, basically, then, which also has a debilitating effect on your mental state if you're trying to do 3 times more than a human can and you're doing everything terribly, and then throw into that you have perfectionistic tendencies where you want to excel, but you're pretty much failing at everything year after year. It's quite demotivating. Again, a tangent. How did I get here? Oh, all to say that if having plans and structures and rituals works in your life, it worked for me. When my life worked that way, it worked for me. I got the results I wanted out of things in business, with every aspect of my life, with my health, with my fitness, with parenting things. Everything worked because I had systems and I got stuff done. Now I look at things differently. I think maybe somebody wired differently than me, that might not have worked for them. Some people can appear to work in a chaotic way, but they're still getting the things done that are important to them. So there's no one way to do this thing. But what I'm saying to you is that my way has now totally flipped. So I believe that we need to do what we can do under the circumstances we're in, be kind to ourselves when things aren't working as we would like them to work, as ideally as we'd imagine they should be working, as they are working for someone else. You just have to look at your scene, see what's happening, and make changes and do what works for you. And if it works, do it more and do it consistently, and then assess what else you want to add in there. If it doesn't work, figure out why, tweak it, make a change, drop that commitment if you want to, put it to the side. Putting something to the side that you decided on and then isn't working quite yet, there's no shame in that, right? It's a conscious choice. Just to say, you know what? I thought about making this change. I tried it. It's not sticking for some reason right now. If I look at it, you might be able to tell why it's not sticking. Maybe you don't have the mental energy to put towards that. Meal prep for me would be one example. I am doing it many weeks, not every week. And it really is great, right? If I have like all my lunches and all my dinners that I make, and they're all there, so when I'm hungry for lunch, boom, I go to the fridge, I get it. If it's something you eat cold, I can eat it. Something you heat, I can heat it, then eat it. And it works amazing. But I need to have a plan, because I'm great with, I go to the grocery store this day, I do meal prep the next morning. The day I go to the grocery store, as I mentioned, I clear out my fridge of all old stuff, so I have room for the groceries when I get home. Like I do the meal prep, I have a great week, have all those meals, that's great. When it fails for me right now, it's when I get bored of those things that I'm eating. And then I'm like, okay, bored enough that you're just like, I can't eat that again, And sometimes, even though I've made it, I'm just open the fridge and I'm like, I don't want to eat that, And I get bored of different things in different time spans. So some things last for, a while, and other things I'm like bored of pretty quickly. And so that necessitates finding some new things to make and making choices about, okay, which new things I'm going to make and what ingredients do I need for that, and, taking longer to prepare it because it's the first time I've ever done it. And guess what that takes? It takes time. And what do I keep saying? I don't have time. So essentially that's how I can fall off the wagon with meal prep, because I just get to the point where more time is necessary and I don't feel like I have it to put toward that, and I'm sure somebody could come in and look at my life and say, well, you could put it towards it. And certainly people that like to preach theory without looking at somebody's real circumstances will say, well, we choose how we spend our time. We all have 168 hours a week. Okay, nice, great. But, as I'm sure some of you have experienced, if you get to the point of needing to be in the bed for 10 hours to get 8 hours of sleep because you wake up in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, you stay awake for an hour and a half to 2 hours in the middle of the night, so that if you want 8 hours of sleep, you're going to have to ultimately be in the bed for 10 hours. Okay, you've just lost 2 hours a day of wasted time. Of just it's in a black hole, of time. And so, yes, we do theoretically all have 168 hours a week. But if you are losing 2 hours a day, that's 14 hours a week that you've just lost, and how much can we get done in 14 hours that we can't get done if we don't have those 14 hours, and they're just left, laying in the bed, wishing we could go back to sleep. And that's just one example, then add in different responsibilities that you get throughout life, whether you have kids, whether the kids go out of the nest and then they're back in the nest for financial reasons, or, whether you have an aging parent, or whether your spouse gets sick and can't earn the same income, and now you need to earn more income by taking on a different job or more responsibilities so you get paid more, whatever it is. Our lives are evolving. So this theoretical stuff pretty much works for a 20-something who is in good general health, has no kids, and rents, and has a job that easily covers their living expenses, and that's I think that was essentially who I used to be. If I'm just thinking through all the things I just listed, I think that's who I used to be, and so the theories can work, and the things you see, the headlines you see on the front of magazines, can work. But when it gets into real life, where you got real responsibilities and real physical limitations and real, health implications, those things might not work in theory. So you just have to get to the point where you say, well, you know what? I can't afford to care what other people think of what I'm doing. And I can't afford to, beat myself up about what these articles that I read or, gurus that I follow say that I should be doing, because we don't know what kinds of, health or lack of health conditions they have. We don't know what kinds of responsibilities they have, what support systems they have. I mean, some people have a spouse making all the money. So, if you're a person that doesn't have to earn income to support your household, there's a lot more time and mental space and resources that you can put toward getting into shape or getting, into a healthier condition or learning to knit, whatever you want to do. If you have leisure time, you can make choices different than someone who doesn't have leisure time. But that's just time. That's just one thing, Then we've got all the programming in our heads that we were given in childhood and throughout our adult life through the media and through people. It's not just the media, it's then the people in our lives around us, whether they be coworkers or neighbors or friends or partners or siblings or parents, that are giving us messages about what we do, what they think we should do, what we look like, choices we shouldn't have made, and so there's a time that you get to. And for me, it coincided the years between 40 and 50 when they say women are sort of at their peak of, not necessarily their peak of wisdom, but, you're still hopefully relatively healthy and you've gained wisdom from having lived life. At the same time I'm in that decade, I've also had a lot of health stuff going on with me and traumatic situations with my mother and challenges with my kids. Spinal fusion is not for the weak of heart. It's been a journey with my daughter with that. And Asperger's, I refer to my experience with my son as semi-special needs. So he's always been on an individualized education program at school, an IEP, as anybody that has a kid who's on one of those. He's always been on that, and it served him well. But he's had challenges. He's one of these kids that has very few friends, He has a lot of social challenges. Many people have thought him odd. He's really normalized a bit more over the years, so he's able to fit in a bit more. But he went to college and really made zero friends, like zero real friends. He was in a special program that we got him into called a living learning community that was a dorm that was just for other people who felt like they needed some more structure and some more support in order to thrive. And so, had felt like they didn't fit in other mainstream groups. And so they were accepted to this special dorm where they're all there, and they actually have a class that they attend that has activities, group activities, where they go out and do things. And so that served him well, but ultimately he's come home from a year of college of having made no friends. And so that's an extra level of parenting that's required there and has been required his whole life. I mean, he was a kid who had maybe one person to invite to his birthday party every year. And thankfully, he had a birthday really close to his sister, who was very social. And so we would just combine the party and have it somewhere, like a bounce house, and then a laser tag place, somewhere where we combined their parties. And everybody invited was her friend, except for his one friend. And it worked out great. I mean, but it's just an extra level of parenting that's required that, everybody has different kids. And so, it requires, I want to say every kid you have is so different that it requires a new level of parenting. And I've always been grateful I only had 2, because I'm not sure I could have survived the last decade if I had had more than 2. But the whole point there, I'm sure there was a point. Don't you think there was a point? The whole point is we all have different circumstances. We all have challenges we're going to face. I faced a lot of challenges in the same decade that I was also going from 40 to 50. So I don't know what to attribute this to, but I really have turned the corner in terms of I do care what people think in matters where my words, my behaviors, my choices are going to impact them and could stand to impact them negatively. But when it comes to things that are just about me and it's only, something that's impacting me, I really don't give a crap what anybody thinks anymore. And that's a beautiful thing, because being raised to seek approval, let's get into childhood wounds. No, just if you were raised in a household where you did not get approval or it was withheld, you go out to the world seeking approval. So there was a lot of energy wasted on that the first, let's say, 45 years of my life. And somewhere in this period of time, that's just an approximation, but somewhere in this period of time, I've just, gotten to the point of, forget it. I give up. Anybody that's going to judge me for something I'm doing that's not negatively impacting them is not somebody I want in my life. So I'm just going to clean house, limit my time with the people that don't support and encourage. I mean, it's ridiculous. I go out into the world and have my friends and, people, strangers I meet, I want to support them, encourage them. I believe in them. That's why I'm doing this program. I believe in everybody listening. I believe in your ability to change and become the person that you want to be. I believe that we're all human and we're all going to fall off track, and we can get right back on without feeling shame or judgment or guilt. Those are just wasted emotions when you haven't done anything wrong. You've just been a human. So why would I let other people into my life who aren't of that same mindset? And I'm only sad that I wasted so many years allowing people into my life. And I haven't had horrible people at all, really. But there are these invisible things where people, subtly sabotage or judge. And for me, outside judgment was enough to be sabotage. Withholding approval was enough for me to experience it as sabotage. And maybe it is for some of you too. And so at some point you do have to flip the switch and just say, you know what? Life is limited. I'm not wasting any more of my precious life on trying to gain approval of people that are like that, because that's showing their mindset. It has nothing to do with you, really. It just has to do with them feeling bad about some aspect of themselves and needing to boost themselves up by judging others. Criticizing others or withholding approval is a form of criticism or a form of judgment. So the message here being, I hope that you have already reached the point or are ready to reach the point of really looking at how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself, who you let be in your life, how you let those in your life treat you, and you start putting yourself first. Like what I think about myself, what I do, what I feel, what I choose is number one, and everybody else can just accept it. And again, this isn't true of things that are going to negatively impact others, but it is, we need to have that delineation of the things that are only impacting us. We need to put our own opinion as really the first and foremost arbiter of what we do and what we say and what we believe in and what we choose. So I hope that you have done that, or you're ready to do it. I'm sure many people listening have done that well before the age of 45 like me. And again, I'm just choosing 45 because it was somewhere in the last blur of a decade, and if that's what I got out of this past decade, I'm not sure I can say it was worth it yet. I'm glad it happened. Yeah, the scales are still a bit more balanced on the trauma side, but I'm sure that ultimately when I'm 70 and I look back, I'll be grateful that the years of 45 to 70 weren't spent worrying what other people thought about me. So let's see. Let's get back to the concrete world of what we're doing here. Yesterday, as I mentioned, I did my weights before the treadmill because my cute little Post-it wasn't doing its job to remind me. And I decided that setting the weights near the steps either was going to be a tripping hazard or wasn't going to be enough of a visual interruption to remind me. So I did my one set of weights before I got on the treadmill, and that worked. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. I did drink my 24 ounces of water again yesterday. So I got back on that track. As you remember, I had fallen off for one day simply through not remembering. And I had speculated about changing to 36 ounces, but I've decided I'm not going to do that yet. Mainly because if I'm not consistent with 24 ounces, what good is it going to do to say, oh, well, I'm going to drink 36? You can't gulp 36 ounces. I mean, you could, but it doesn't feel good to gulp 36 ounces of water. And if thus far I've not remembered in a timely enough manner to, number one, do it every day, and number two, do it in a way that doesn't require drinking a lot at the same time, why would I increase it to 36? As I mentioned before, we need to set the goal at something that we can do consistently. So I'm going to stick with the 24 and see where that goes. See if I can come up with some sort of system to remember it consistently, whether I'm doing stuff around the house or whether I'm at my computer, at my standing desk, either on the kitchen dining room counter or at my actual standing desk in my office. So sticking with 24 ounces. My arm exercise, I've been doing the arms, doing biceps one day, triceps another day, but I'm thinking about changing that to arms one day and legs the next day. Just so I can do a compound move with my arms, which is a compound move. Really, the definition is used in two ways. Some people use it to describe a single exercise that works multiple muscle groups. So let's say a lunge, is going to work multiple muscle groups in your legs as well as your glutes, which are your butt muscles. So single exercise working multiple muscle groups. Other people use a compound move to be sort of taking two moves and gluing them together into one. So in my case, it might be, doing my bicep curls, so having a dumbbell in my hand, doing my bicep curls, but when I get to the top of the move, instead of lowering back down for the next curl, when I'm at the top of the move, I rotate my arms, so now my palms are facing outward, and I push both weights up into the sky from my shoulders, which is a shoulder press, right? And then that's the compound move. I've now combined a bicep curl with a shoulder press, because the shoulder press typically starts where both weights are being held at your shoulders, and you push up to the sky, and then you bring the weight back down to your shoulder, then you push back up to the sky. And so if I'm combining the bicep curl, I have my arms down by my sides with the weights, palms facing out. I lift up the bicep curl. I rotate my arms, so now my palms are facing back out again. I push them up to the sky as a shoulder press, and then I bring the weight back down to my shoulder. I rotate my arm back so the palms are now facing toward me again, and then I lower down into the next bicep curl. So that also is a compound move, because you're taking two moves and you're combining them to one. But in that case, I'd be working not only my biceps, but I'd also be working my shoulders. So thinking about doing a compound move on arm days, and then on leg days, I probably will do a lower body one that does work multiple muscle groups, like a lunge, because I like lunges. I don't like squats. Squats are good for your legs and your glutes also. But for me, form, I have to focus more on form when it comes to squats. And I feel like I can more easily achieve good form with lunges, even walking lunges, where you do a lunge, but you're continually walking across the room with the lunges. I don't have the space to do a lot of walking lunges in a home gym, or otherwise known as my basement, where my gym equipment is. But I do those at the gym. But nonetheless, what we're going to shift to here next is doing combo move of bicep curl shoulder press for my arm day and lunges for leg day. And I'm only going to do one set of 12 of each of these things. So again, not a big workout, not something I'm going to think about and go, do I have to do that? It's going to be something I go, it's not that much. It's not that big a deal. I can do that. And then I'll get on the treadmill. Because again, I'm doing these before I get on the treadmill. So that's it for today. It's been a long one. My talking, that is, not the day. It's at the start of the day for me. But I hope that you have a super amazing day, or you've already had a super amazing day. And I'm looking forward to talking with you again tomorrow. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.